The conversation you are about to hear was recorded in 2020 during the height of the global pandemic. And now, Global Comedy Studios presents, Is This a Bad Time to Talk?
Okay, I'm about to call my friend Rachel Dratch, who I've known since 1990. Phenomenal talent, so funny, so kind, so sweet. I'm grateful to her for doing this podcast, phone call, whatever you may call it. I'm here to listen. Oh, aka, is this a bad time to talk? So let's. Hello?
Oh, hi.
Rachel Dratch?
Yeah, hi.
Is this a bad time to talk? Hey.
Well, sadly, I have all the time in the world right now, so.
AKA, I'm here to listen, even though I just interrupted you as you were talking.
Oh, sorry.
No, my bad. Oh, I have to just let you know, this phone call is being recorded. Are you cool with that?
Okay. Yes, I am.
And possibly post it if I figure out how to do that.
Okay. All right.
But I'm in New York City at an undisclosed location for both our safety.
Okay, yeah.
And today is May 6th, 2020. It's around 1:20 p.m. If nothing else, you got the day and time out of this, which we used to have to call up for that.
That's true, we did.
Where am I finding you right now?
I'm actually in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah. Undisclosed location. No,
Wonderful.
Came up here for wonderful. Came up here for a spring break thing, and then ended up staying, sort of like a 3-hour tour situation.
Right on.
So yeah, I'm not in the city at the moment because I'm from here. So I came back to my roots.
My roots, Gilligan's Island, 3-hour tour. God, those guys, it was just supposed to be 3 hours, and it just turned into something bad.
Right, just like this, yeah. Yeah.
What was I going to say? I had one thing I was going to say, but I forgot. New York. Oh, my mind is just. Oh, by the way, I'm using this app called Tape a Call. I don't know why. For some people, it just cuts off, and I have to call them back. When I was talking to Fred Weller, it did it every 15 minutes. When I talked to Michael Shannon the other day, it did it like every 30 or 40. But some people, it worked throughout the whole thing. Like when I talked to Richard Kind, who wishes his best to you.
Oh, right. Okay.
It went fine. But, this thing is kind of born out of the virus because I don't think I would have, presumed to take up your time during the BC world before Corona. I would have been and if I did do it, I would be like, well, can you meet at Simple Studios? And what would you like to eat and drink? And let's make sure the quality is so good. I don't want to waste your time. But in this, I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I had to make something out of this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just looked at my phone. I was like, you've got people that are people who are both successful, but people know, but also they're your friends, and maybe they'll talk to you for a few minutes, So I was like, let me start this thing.
Okay.
But do you know how much you are loved and respected by everybody? I just don't know. I want to make sure you know that.
I don't know that I do, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Yes. I mean, there's nobody who does not like Rachel Dratch, I think, globally.
Oh, my God. I bet we could find.
And if they do, let's find them.
Yeah, okay.
And respected. And it's funny because during this time, too, my attorney keeps, giving me bad news. But the way he does it is he says, hey, man, I hate to be a Debbie Downer. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. But it makes me think of you and the character that you created iconically and how funny that is. But it's funny every time. That's how
we're living in the era of Debbie Downer right now.
That's right. This is her sweet spot.
Yeah, it sure is.
I mean, daily, she could have just daily death tolls where she was like, someone could say, every day it just gets worse.
I know. There's it's not even a sketch anymore. It's just reality, I think. But, yeah.
When people ask me how I am, I'm like, as far as I know, I'm okay. But who knows how long it's been living inside me,
Oh, no.
Yeah. Where you just don't know. You don't know. But yeah, I just, like I said, I've been calling folks and just kind of folks that I know and just like when our paths crossed. And, you know, you and I met, I guess, somewhere in 90, but for sure 91. But that time is so like fuzzy to me. But I remember seeing you first, like at IO at Wrigley Side upstairs.
Yeah.
And I just seeing
you
you
had
and
long
Kevin.
Hair then, didn't you? Did you have
I
long hair?
did. I had a ponytail.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Ponytail.
I remember. Yeah, Wrigley Side. Yeah.
I was doing a performance art experiment where I was growing a ponytail to see if people treated me differently. It was called Ponytail Mindset, and I found out not really.
No, it was all the same. Okay.
It's all the same. Even the long hair didn't do much.
All
but I remember you being there already ensconced in the IO system. But what year did you get to Chicago? When did you show up?
Chicago, 89, fall of 89. And I mean, this is like, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I had done improv in college, and then so I was moving to Chicago to try to like just give it a shot, you know, just know that I had given it a shot. But when I got there, I auditioned for the classes at Second City, and I was like semi-experienced, just like in terms of having done college improv, but then I didn't get in. So I moved out there with this friend from my improv group, and she got into classes, and I didn't get in. So I was just like, oh man, because I was told everyone gets into the classes, like that wasn't even a thing. But so then I was sort of like, oh my gosh, should I just like go back, you know, or should I even try this? But obviously I stuck it out there. But anyway, yeah, that's when I moved there. It was fall of 89.
I had a similar thing happen when I took my first improv class, February 1st, 1990, with Sharna. Ian Roberts happened to be in the class as well. And the next week, Second City was having their auditions for their classes, and I was like, I'm on a roll. And I went to audition, and I didn't get in. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had a similar thing where I was like, I thought they let everybody
Wait, now you're cutting out. Wait, Ellie, you're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. I can. I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So I also didn't get in to the classes, but I ended up taking them.
Again. Shit.
That might be you, because I can hear you pretty well.
All right, let's try again and see. Tell me your failure story.
Basically just the story was I took my first improv class February 1st, 90 with Sharna, and Ian was in it. And then that week was Second City's classes auditions, and I auditioned because I was like, I'm on a roll and I want to do this.
Wait, I'm sorry, it's cutting out again.
It is?
All right, I guess continue and we'll see if it works.
We'll see what happens. But I can hear you, so, I mean, but it's important that you hear me, too, so you can. But,
okay.
What was I going to say? Right, so you were there, like,
classes.
Yeah, but I had the exact same thing happen. I didn't get into Second City's training center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you went back and started taking classes eventually. You auditioned again for them?
Oh, damn it. Ali, I'm so sorry, but I'm, like, not hearing you at all.
Okay. Do you want me to, should I call on a different line?
How should we do this? Do you want to try me back, or?
Yeah, I mean, why don't I call you back? That's all right. No worries. That's all right. I'm going to call you back, all right?
Okay.
All right, bye. Hello?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
I mean, think of this more. This is just I mean, because I don't even know right now. It's really just a phone call because I'm using an old timey phone. You know, those handhelds. I plug it into my iPhone, but it gives me like that feeling of like when you were a kid and talking on the phone was a big deal, and you were just felt like so excited to be able to, like, you know, I don't know, take the phone as far away from your parents as you could.
Right.
Talk to a friend from high school on the phone, and you had the feeling of the handset in your hand. So no, I'm just like putting all these things together. Like, oh, I bought this handset years ago as for a bit, and I'm like, okay, I've got these friends in my phone who I've always been curious about their journey, about how they got into it, you know. And then I was like, started doing this. Like the first person I reached out to was Kevin McDonald, and he was like, "Sure, I'm happy to talk to you," but he's Canadian, and he wanted to be polite. And then I was just like, you know, just started chatting with folks because, you know, even though we have like this similar background of, you know, having been at, you know, Improv Olympic, Second City, SNL, it's just like how you got there is intriguing to me. What's intriguing to me with people is the bifurcation points, the different places along the way where you were like, you met somebody, someone told you should take this class, you found out about an after-school thing or a school play. So at what point, like, did it hit you like you could do this when you were younger? Did something you saw, or did something you say all of a sudden?
Well, I was never a person that was like, I'm going to do this. Like, from it, like, when I was really little, I watched the first SNL season, and I was like really into it, even though it was kind of over my head. And then I would watch it every week and like stay up really late. And if I had a friend sleeping over, like I'd make them stay up. I'd always fall asleep. But so I was like really into comedy, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be an actor or a comedian. And then I was into doing like the school plays and stuff like that. And I was sort of veered towards the more comic roles. And then in college, I was a drama major, but it was always just like, oh, this is what I have fun doing. I'm just going to do what's fun. And then I went to this, the Eugene O'Neill Center, like National Theater Institute, it's called, it's like first semester. And like there, everyone was planning on trying to be an actor. And no one was really into comedy in the whole group. So I was sort of like, oh, maybe like I should just try this because all these people are like straight actors. I should just give this a shot. And then I was in an improv group in college, and then we went out to Chicago just sort of like to check it out. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to try this. When I graduate, I'm going to try Chicago and just know that it's sort of like I want to know that I gave it a shot. Like I don't want to chicken out and just not even try it. But I would definitely not thinking like, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to be an actor. I was sort of like, I just want to make sure I try this. So that's sort of how that all came about, kind of. I don't know. I did a big, like, nutshell story there. But I don't know. I didn't go into much detail, but that's the basic framework.
And when you got there to Chicago in '89, were people like Dorff and Keckner and Stack already doing it on stages? Like, when you got there, how did you know about like I.O.?
Oh, right. So the girl that I had moved out there with, the one that got to Second City, her name was Sonia, and she started going to I.O. Like I didn't discover I.O. until the next year, I think, in the fall of '90, I think, something like that, or maybe later in the spring. But anyway, yeah, she had been going for a while, and she's like, you should come check this out. So then I went. I was instantly like, oh, my God, this is so cool. And that's where I saw, like, Blue Velveeta was a house team, and Brian McCann and that whole gang. And then I started going there, like, every weekend to watch them perform. And then that became sort of my social life and my also, whatever, creative life, whatever. I started taking class there. And, that became sort of that's how I got into the whole scene. But I say that meaning more socially than, like, performing-wise right away. Yeah.
At that time, it was at Papa Milano's?
Yes, it was the basement of Papa Milano's, yes. And, and then eventually it moved to, what was it, Wrigley Side? Near Fenway, I almost said. Oh, my God, near Wrigley. And that's where I sort of, then I was on that team, the victim's family, with, God, it was kind of a rotating thing, but we were on that together, right? Weren't we?
That's right.
For a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first got there, it was McKay and a lot of other tall fellows. And back then it was like, most of the improv teams were like 6 guys and 1 girl. That's sort of how it was. But everyone always asked, like, well, was it hard for women? But it wasn't by design. That's just like, at I.O. anyway, there were way more guys trying to do this than women. So it kind of worked to my advantage, I'd say, because if you were like halfway good as a woman, you could get a lot of stage time because, you could be like the girl on the team, So I think I got a lot of like practice kind of just by being like the one, there weren't many women trying to do this back then. But then luckily, like, my time in Chicago, that kind of shifted over. I was in Chicago for 9 years, and it sort of shifted to be a little more equal, I'd say. But yeah, that's how the whole IO thing started. Eventually, I got into classes at Second City, and I was sort of doing those two things at the same time, the classes and IO. But the thing that was great about IO is you did get that stage time in front of a real audience, which, like, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like it, like the actor's high. I mean, like, you're falling flat on your face many times, as you know. But just sort of, you know, like, to get good at improv, like, it's all about losing the fear, as we know, and so there's no better way of facing the fear than being in front of a real audience instead of just in class. I say this having not improvised like 2 years probably. Like, improv used to be like, I mean, I used to eat, breathe, and sleep it. You know, like every night I'd be improvising. Every weekend I'd go there, and then when I was in Second City, like every single day. And I've never imagined a time in my life when I would not be improvising, but that has come upon me. So.
But, I mean, it's kind of like riding a bike. I mean, I can't imagine you not being able to get on the stage anywhere in the world with anybody in the world and not shine.
Well, I feel like that, I mean, thank you, but I feel like, you know, the great thing about Second City was it was improvising every night, so you lose sort of that preciousness about it. Like, oh, I have to be good. Like, you're just so much more freed up in your mind. So I think that's when you get really good, is when you're up there every single day, you know. So now, like, you know, if I were to improvise, I would definitely be nervous. Like, I wouldn't just be like, oh, yeah, I got this. But, I mean, whatever. That's kind of part of performing in general, I think. So.
And when you took classes at IO, Sharna was the only instructor, or had Dell shown up
No,
yet?
Dell was my teacher. Well, Sharna was my teacher for the first level, and then Dell, and then I don't really remember much after that. But yeah, so I did have Dell as my teacher. What I remember was not a lot of, like, you know, you'd heard of Dell, the legend. Like, I'd heard of Dell even in college because we did this little, like, seminar thing with the Purple Crayon from Yale, and they had to actually study with Dell. So they taught us the Herald and everything. So we were sort of exploring with the Herald before I got to Chicago. But then I met, like, Dell, you know, the myth. And he didn't teach. I mean, I don't know what your memory is. Wait, you had him for teacher, right? Because, oh, my gosh, he was, yeah. I don't know what you thought, but, like, he didn't teach, like, here's how you do this, and here's my advice. It was more just, like, you kind of, like, get his vibe. Like, it was sort of just this osmosis experience. That was my experience with him. Like, you didn't want to be singled out and humiliated, which did happen to me once, like, horribly. Like, I was stung in my memory. But it was more just, like, I don't know, the whole truth and comedy thing, and, like, wanting to live up to this sort of integrity of comedy that he sort of exuded. You know, that's sort of my takeaway from it, was, you know, the truth and comedy of it all.
Yeah, I agree. I think to some degree when people ask me about it, I would say, like, mostly it was like his presence in the room made you want to be better and you didn't want to, like, do bad stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't really, like, say so many things, you know, that I think were like, oh, like, I've had acting teachers who had phrases they said, like Win Handman was one of my acting teachers who just passed away in New York, and his refrain was ballast yourself in reality and then throw yourself out into the sea of inspiration. So he had, like, quotable quotes or refrains, where with Dell, he would come in and have his Dell-a-log where he would talk for 45 minutes and then say, all right, I suppose we should do something today. And then, you know, and then you'd get up and play, but you wanted to just be good. But also it just, like, you know, it was such a scary time for me to do it. And at Wrigley Sides, when I first started studying with him, I had class with Sharna, but it was a time where you could bring a 6-pack of beer into a class and sit in the back and drink it, and no one thought anything of it.
Whoa.
You know?
Wow.
No one was like, hey, what's up? Why are you doing that? And
well, I remember this one time, my humiliating moment I'll share is, so I had, like, missed a class, and so Sharna said I could do a makeup class. And with Dell, you know, it was like the people that were sort of one level above me. So I was in a class with people I didn't really know. And something like the suggestion was something about that movie Eraserhead or something. So I came out like this mutant thing, you know. I was trying to be this Eraserhead type of character, but anyway, he like stopped he like put it was like record scratch moment, and he was like, oh, hold on. He's like, what's your name? This is in front of everybody, and I was like, Rachel, and he's like, well, that's the kind of thing they do over at Players Workshop. It was like dripping with the most insulting. I mean, no offense to Players Workshop, but it was meant as a total insult. It was meant as like, you know, you're acting like a mutant, you know, like a big character, you know. And anyway, I was like, my face like flush. I was like on the verge of tears because it was just like a spotlight on me and all these people I didn't know, and just I was being like singled out as, you know, whatever, the worst. So that was a rough one with Del.
I mean, that's so funny how he was one of those dudes who could say something and you'd just like carry it with you forever, and then he could say something and, you know, negatively, and you'd be like, and you would have that as well. But I just remember those classes also being packed, but by the time I got there was just like so many, it just seems like it was a golden age when I look back on it. The first time I saw it was at Second City when they were doing this thing called the Southern Comfort Comedy Challenge. It was the finals on main stage. I don't know if you were there.
No.
But it was people like Dorff and McCann and Stack and Susan Messing, and I guess that was the core of Blue Velveeta, but they were all so good at it, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this because, you know, these people are really natural at it. Did you always, like, my younger daughter needs imaginary play. Like, daily she needs to play with her dolls, she needs to talk out loud. When you were younger, did you engage in a lot of imaginary play? Or
no, I mean, well, it's just, I think, like the same as any kid. I don't think I was like off the charts on that or anything. I think I liked writing like little funny poems. Like I wanted to be a writer when I was really little. Like I liked writing funny poems and, you know, stories and stuff like that. And I did have this one teacher in fifth grade that was really into creative writing, and that was sort of that actually, you know, one of those teachers you meet that changes you kind of thing. Because up to then and after then too, like, there was no creative element of school. It was always like, you know, take the test kind of thing. And this was like, this one teacher had us writing all the time, and that was just sort of sparked that in me. But, and then, I mean, my dad was very funny. He was just sort of a comedian himself, even though he was a radiologist, just like your dad. And, yeah, so I kind of grew up with funny, and then I had really funny friends too. Like my friends now that I've known since I was little, this group of girls, like they're truly funny. So I think all that sort of combined to sort of give me this comedy bent. But no, I wasn't like, you know, playing with. It wasn't really like hardcore imaginary play, I guess.
The teacher in fifth grade, do you remember their name?
Yeah, it was Miss Tokars.
Wow. You see, that's the thing that's always intrigued me, that there are these people who you come across, and whether it's by, you know, their kind of design or who they were, but these little things they add to our lives that all of a sudden kind of just give us that taste that push us in a direction.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
where all of a sudden you get to writing, or being in a funny family, you know, where people are funny in the family. And all of a sudden, because you need, like, you can hit against a wall in tennis, but eventually you're going to have to hit against someone to get better.
Right.
You know, and just to have somebody where you're like, oh, not realizing, but like, oh, we're doing bits, we're doing voices, we're doing characters. And also that idea of, I was thinking when I was thinking about you and talking, it's the idea too, like, I've always seen you like you have this group of core friends outside of this world, but whenever I've seen you with them, like, they're funny people, and you're like funny around them. Like, they laugh at what you say. They like love you in a way where I'm like, oh, you had like this audience of people who got you, you know, to practice.
I guess, like, my friends from home, we were all sort of each other's audience. Like, I mean, it's like any one of them, if they had probably been interested in theater as well could be where I am, but they just weren't like doing the school plays. Like, you know, they were sort of class clown types too. So,
what made you choose Dartmouth? Is just because it's a Massachusetts area school?
I don't really know. It was very random. You know, it was like, I don't know. It's not really like I don't really fit into back then in the 80s, it was very conservative. I mean, like, you know, Laura Ingraham and Ganesh D'Souza went there, for God's sake. But they were like seniors when I was a freshman. And they're still in the same business now, aren't they? But no, I don't know. It was like it's kind of back then was definitely more of like the jock outdoorsy kind of thing. But I think now it's sort of mellowed a little bit. But yeah, I just sort of, you know, it was like that 18-year-old, like, this is a pretty campus, like that kind of thing. I mean, they did have the art center there, and that's where I got involved in improv. Like, you know, all my friends I'm still in touch with were into theater and stuff. So I eventually found my people there. But yeah, it was kind of a random choice.
When you started performing in IO, I remember when I started performing there, it was Thursday night there was a show, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, if you were lucky and you were in one of those house teams that Sharon had, which was Corky's Callback or Victim's Family, and then a rotating team. And Blue Velveeta, I guess, had moved on to do their own thing. But, you know, at that time, that's a phenomenal amount of stage time each week, 5 times a week to get up and do it. And you're playing with the likes of, you know, talented people. Was it one of those things that eventually you know, was like became a grind or took for granted, or was there always like, no, this is fun, I've got these shows? Was it taken for granted where you were like, oh, this is a grind, I'm doing it now, or was it just the excitement was always there?
I remember the excitement always being, like, I just remember, you know, when I first got on the house team, I was so psyched. Cause, I mean, in the big scheme of things, I didn't know anyone who was like, I'm going to give this 3 years or whatever. Like, no one that I knew was like, 5-year plan. Here's, if I don't make it by this time, I'm going to, but it was more about like, are you making a little bit of progress every year? So then when I made the house team, like, that was big for me because it was sort of like, okay, I'm like moving on up here, you know? And then, yeah, like getting to perform every weekend with those guys, definitely, like, you know, jumps your game up. So I remember, like, once I was on that team, realizing, you know how, like, beginner improvisers, they kind of, like, you still sort of, like, plan things out, but, like, I remember, like, editing without knowing what I was going to say, and just like, hey, something's going to come to me, and then, like, the fact that when something comes to you, that's sort of this, like, big, I don't know, improvement, or, like, a big milestone, I'd say, is, like, when you can jump out there without knowing any idea what you're going to say. So I remember that sort of starting up then, during that time.
But you just knew it was time to edit, and you were like,
yeah,
it needs to be edited, I got to jump out there, and you did with nothing.
Yeah, like other times when you'd hear the monologue, you'd be like, oh, I could do something with that or something with that. But just jumping out and then, like, going for it, you know, that's when you're in the zone, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, our paths crossed for a bit when we were on Victim's Family together for a while. And then at that point, I remember you, like, being like, I think I'm going to do Second City, but also Jazz Freddy came about, where you were part of that, right?
Yeah, I think around then, well, I got in the Second City touring company, and then I think...
How did that happen? I mean, I know you auditioned and stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, I had done the levels there, which at that time there were just 5 levels, and then your 5th level, you would do a little sketch show, and I remember, like, I had a lot of ideas for that show, so I was like, in a lot of that level 5 show, and then I got to audition for the touring company, but I didn't get it the first time, as happens with me, like, with my whole career. Like, I always didn't get anything the first time. I would have to go back, and then I would get something the second time. So the first time I auditioned, I didn't get in, and then I did the second time, and then I think that's when I left the victim's family, and then I think I was doing Jazz Freddy then too. I don't remember the timeline of it, but yeah.
I mean, but Jazz Freddy was just like, everybody was so good, and they came from different areas of improv in Chicago. I mean, that must have been something to be able to. I mean, I remember we used to do shows. I think it was Friday night at Wrigley Side at 8 and 10, and then afterwards we would rush to go see Jazz Freddy. It killed the bait, live bait.
Live bait, yeah.
And it was just like, wow, watching these people perform, and people like Dorff and you and Gardner and Keckner and so many other people, and Miriam.
Yeah, that was so fun. Yeah, I don't think I ever was like, oh, I have to go do this. Like, I was just so into being in Chicago and improvising all the time. Like, it was just, I just have such fun memories of it. I don't remember ever. I mean, I'm sure there was times, but I mean, especially that when you're coming up still, like, I don't remember ever being like, oh, I have to go do this. Like, I was always so excited about it.
And then when you got into touring company, who was in your cast at the time? You were in Rudco to begin with?
Yeah. So at first, I was with John Glazer and Jennifer Bell, Jeff Rogers, Joe Dempsey, and, oh, my God, Mark Dalbus maybe? Shoot, I don't know. I hope I don't forget anybody. I think that was the general lineup. Then I was with them for 2 years, and then I flipped over to Blue Co. with you and Rachel Hamilton, Francis Callier, and wait, who else was it? Bill Cott. And I'm forgetting somebody. But yeah. Anyway, that was super fun. So
and
then
you
I
toured for a while.
I toured total 2.5 years,
and
then Then I got put on main stage.
That's right. You went right from touring to main stage in Promise Keepers, right?
Pinata for Bees.
Pinata for Bees was the first show. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, geez Louise. I mean, the pedigree just continues.
The pedigree continues, Ali. Don't forget about it.
That's right. I forgot. I mean, I was looking it up, and I was like, Pinata, that's right. But, I mean, that was the show, and I was talking to Glazer about it, because I talked to him last week about how that just kind of changed things, and the way Second City kind of looked at that show, and some people were like, this is awesome, and some people are like, they're breaking the form, you know.
I mean, that was truly, like, I was sort of, like, that was, like, all Adam McKay. I mean, in terms of taking any credit for, like, all that, it was really all Adam, and I was sort of just, like, along for the ride. It was my first show. I didn't really know how to write yet. I mean, it was weird, because I wrote a bunch of stuff for that level 5, but then when I got up on main stage, I was pretty intimidated, and I kind of didn't know what I was doing, and then I just meant I can't take credit for any of the form breaking that took place.
Yeah, but I mean, you were definitely. I remember seeing that show so many times, and just for us watching it, it was just it was a team effort, regardless of that, how the form was broken or what changed. It was just like you had this pretty phenomenal cast that each of you fulfilled a different role in that cast that made the whole greater than the sum of the parts, I think. But when you were in touring company, who were some of the people on stages who you looked up to and you were like, wow?
Oh yeah. So when I was in the touring company, Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, and Amy Sedaris were all on the main stage in the same cast. So that was like, the talent powerhouse. And geez, I don't know. I was more like, those were the ones that I can remember. Because when I was in Torco, it was mainly them, I'd say. Dave Rosowski was up there.
Rosowski, Jackie Hoffman.
Oh, wait, now you're cutting out again. Shit.
Hello? Can you hear me?
It's happening again. Okay, now I can.
Jackie Hoffman.
Jackie Hoffman, Jenna Jalovitz.
Pasquazi had already left by that time?
He had left, I think, but I had seen him at I.O. Yeah, I think he already left.
He was, when I got there, November 90. He was in that cast. I think that was his last show, Flag Smoking Permitted in Lobby Only.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I didn't go watch Second City a lot until I got up on the, in touring company. Because I would always go watch Improv Olympic, I guess, but yeah.
And then, so you were at Second City and you did Pinata, but you also did those two other shows I mentioned, right?
Yeah, then
Paradigm.
I did 4 shows total.
Wow.
Citizen Gate, then Paradigm Lost, and then Promise Keepers, yeah.
So that's probably 2+ years?
It was actually almost 4 years.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And in Chicago comedy, to me, like that was one of the few jobs you could have main stage where you could just basically make a living doing shows 6 nights a week doing comedy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, and you could get these awesome apartments. The apartments were so great in Chicago. So I had this really cool place. It was only, back then, whatever. It was just $100 a month. And that's how much you made, I think, per week. I don't really remember. But, yeah, you could live off of that. You could be a working actor. And it was so fun. It was like obviously one of my most favorite jobs ever.
And then, you do the shows 6 nights a week, but then sometimes on Monday, too, you would come and do the Hoot and Andy, on Monday nights, right? The Armando Hoot and Andy.
Oh, my gosh. I guess I don't know. Maybe once in a while, but I think by the time I was really rolling there, the Monday night was my Cafe Iberico night. Yeah, I would take Monday off. But yeah, then I was up there almost 4 years on the main stage.
And then how did it end up going from Second City main stage? Then you went. I remember you came to New York after that. And is that how?
No, okay. So when I was first got on the main stage, SNL came through, and they flew out like almost everyone to audition except me and a few people. So it was just sort of like, you're not going. It felt really bad. But on the flip side, as I said, I was like newly on the main stage. I didn't really have many characters up there. I was pretty green for that stage. So like looking back, I could see why I wasn't picked to go out there. But anyway, then when I was about to leave, like 3.5 years later, they came again. Like they don't come there every year, so it's sort of, you don't even know when they're going to be there. But then that time I got, I'd done much more work up there and I had characters, and so then that time I got to audition. But I didn't get it that time, as the theme of this. I didn't get the job, but I did feel like I did a really good audition, that one. So I felt good in that, like, I was sort of like, okay, I did the best I could. I didn't get it. All right, moving on, And then I moved to LA, which kind of sucked for like 9 months. And then Sheen and I did Dratch and Faye in Chicago, and that did really well. And then I got to audition again. I think. Shoot, I don't remember the order of any of them. But anyway, I got to audition again, and then I got it that year, along with you as my office mate.
That's right. I cherish that time to get to be in the office with you. But I remember watching Dratch and Faye in Chicago and thinking, wow, these two found a great vehicle and they complement each other and they're funny. How did it come about that the two of you decided to do a show together?
So Tina was already at SNL as a writer. Mm-hmm. I guess she had done, 1 or 2 years there, maybe just 1 year. And then I had, like I said, moved to LA and like nothing was happening, and I really missed Chicago. And so then I thought, like, what if we go back and just do a show together? Because she missed performing since she was just writing. And so then we went back to Chicago for the summer, and we wrote the show in 2 weeks. And, when you do Second City, like, you're putting scenes up in front of an audience, you're trying them out, you're getting feedback, kind of, you're tweaking them. So this was a different style of writing for us because this was just well, not for her, 'cause she was on SNL, but for me it was, because this was just like, let's write this thing we think is funny and then just like put it up on opening night, you know? And so we kind of had no idea how it was going to go, but it went really, really well. It was so fun in that sort of, by then, just like, well, I think this is funny, like trusting your instincts without the benefit of trying it in front of a crowd first, you know? So, yeah, we did that show, I think, just once a week. I don't remember. I don't even remember. Maybe twice a week. But I think we did it on Monday nights or something. Anyway, we did it there for the summer. And then we ended up doing it in New York, I think, the following summer. I don't remember how any of it was.
But didn't you guys go to the Aspen Comedy Festival, too?
Yeah, we went to Aspen.
Right.
Yeah. I don't remember if I was on SNL then or what. Maybe I was. But, yeah, we took it to Aspen, and we did it at UCB the following summer, I think. And it got really good, everything, word of mouth, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, that's amazing that you reached out to her. She was like, yeah, let's do a show. And then in 2 weeks, you had a show up. And Jeff Richmond was directing?
Yeah, Jeff directed it. Yeah, I know. 2 weeks, yeah.
That's amazing. Because I remember that time, but everything's so foggy to me in terms of timeline and how things happened and how things just showed up. But I remember, like, you know, seeing you guys at Aspen doing your show there, and I came and, you know, Jeff was my piano player for the family, so we were friends that way.
Oh.
And so there was all these little kind of Venn diagram type connections. And then I remember when the two of you were doing the show, and I was like, oh, wow. But that show ultimately led to you auditioning a second time at SNL.
Yeah, I got to audition again. And that time, like, I didn't think I did as well as the year before. Like, I think I even called my mom, and I was like, I don't think I got it. You know, I just, but then so then what happened was I was told, like, okay, they'll let you know by mid-August or something. And so then I didn't hear from them, so I assumed it didn't happen. And but then I got a call, like, a week later saying, Lauren wants to meet with you in New York. So I was just like, what? You know, and so then I went and had that meeting, and then, and then they said, well, he'll let you know within a week. So then, like, the week goes by. It's the last day of the week. And I was back in LA then, and it was, you know, it was like 8 o'clock East Coast time. So I was like, okay, I guess this isn't happening. But then, like, the call came, you know, the dream call that you got SNL. Like, it was just, oh, my gosh, like a pinch me moment, you know? Yeah.
I mean, that's the culmination of, you know, a decade-long dream come true. I mean, more than that, because you watched the show from the very first, you know, season and, you know, very first year.
Right.
Did you, when you watched it that year, when the, you know, that the initial, you know, when the show first aired in that first season, was there ever in your mind an idea where you were able to say to yourself, I want to be on this show at some point in my life?
No, Jeff. I mean, back then I was like so little. I mean, I was probably 9 years old. So I wasn't thinking like, oh, I want to be on this. But I was just sort of like, ooh, this looks so like a fun little club to be in, you know, that kind of thing. And then, but then like as I got more in like high school, then it would have been, oh, that would be a total dream. But nothing I would ever even dare to utter, you know. It wasn't even in my brain really.
When do you think you were able to dare to utter it and have it in your brain, to have that like moment of like where you could say to yourself, you know, in your quiet moments, I want to be on the show? Was it at Second City? Like when were you able to say the words to yourself, you know, to put the intention out there?
I guess like moving out to Chicago maybe was like, if I'm going to try this, yeah, and then Second City, like the natural next dream step would be SNL. But so maybe then, but like everyone that moves to Chicago has that as their little dream, and then you kind of soon forget about that because it just becomes about actually, I hate this phrase, but like doing the work. Like it actually becomes about, you know, being in the moment of where you are and like trying to get on the stage at Second City or like trying to write some good scenes for the Second City show. So you kind of like don't have that in the forefront at all when you're in Chicago. That's my experience, and most people that I knew.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I feel similar. Like you get there with a certain kind of dream or idea, and then you kind of, in a way, you put it on the back burner, and you just go about your day-to-day doing shows and taking classes and, cultivating relationships and community and friendships, and then all of a sudden it comes up again, in the forefront of your life. Because I think we auditioned 99 the same year.
Yeah.
That August of 99. Steve Higgins had come to Chicago with Scott Wainio. Where are you, Scott Wainio?
Oh, my gosh. Uh-huh.
And they came and saw ETC, and then that's how I ended up getting flown out to audition that year. In that, I think it was July of 99, maybe we did it. And then August of 99 is when they told people.
Okay. You're cutting out, but I'm trying to decipher what you're saying.
So do you remember that audition you had on 8H and the things you did for the audition?
Well, the first year I did the Boston thing that ended up being on the show. The first year I had this character, this like child star that had grown up, was still acting like a child star. I did her, and I think I did some like magic, like a bad magician sort of thing, and what? Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. Then you had to do some impressions. So I did Callista Flockhart because Ally McBeal was really big back then. And I sort of fudged the other two impressions. But then the next year when I auditioned, I did do a bit of the NPR bit we had done at Second City, not to be confused with the one that was already on the show. But, and I did a different Boston thing. But then I tried to do like a whole bunch of impressions. The only thing of that made it on the show was the Boston stuff.
But I mean, when you get hired like that, it's almost like it's a victory for all your friends who you grew up with and your family, and it's like the culmination of a team effort to some degree. They must have been over the moon, your family and your brother and your friends.
Yeah, for sure.
That was also like, if I'm not mistaken, you were the only cast member hired. I was the only writer hired that year, and you were the only cast member hired. So that was kind of a strange time because for me, there was no other new writer that I could be like, hey, man, what are you thinking?
Definitely strange. Yeah, because you kind of imagine like you're going to get like the welcome packet. Like you imagine it's going to, okay, here's how it works, and da-da-da. But it's more just like you're thrown into the pool, as you know, I'm sure. We just sort of like, do I go here now? What do I do now? Like, it was definitely a learning curve.
And then, but then you started obviously swimming in that pool, and started putting stuff out there. Do you remember the first stuff you got on air and how it felt?
I think, the first thing, you have to try to write scenes, and it's sort of a different style of writing than a Second City, for sure. Like, Second City, you could do more slow, not that you want to do a slow comedy scene, but you know what I mean. You could take more time. But SNL, you need to have jokes, like, right away. So that was something to sort of learn. Tina wrote stuff for me, and we wrote together. Like, we wrote the Boston Teens together. I think that's the first, like, character thing I got on. But, the show, as you know, it, for the most part, I always felt like I didn't really feel on solid ground there much of the time. I think, like, a lot of people feel that way. Like, you're never like, I don't know. I didn't feel super confident there. And that's the whole story, as I'm sure you know. But so like just because I got a scene on, then I wasn't like, okay, I'm golden now. Because then the next week rolled around, and you had to try to think of a new thing. And there'd be some weeks when I had an idea, and the other weeks going into writing night where I had no ideas, and that was always brutal. It's because, like, for me, I wouldn't just think of a scene idea that night. Like, I would have to have been sort of going about my life trying to gather scene ideas to present them. But like if I tried to just write that night with no idea, you get to that point where you start like looking around the room, like how about a scene about a death? You know, that's when you're in big trouble. But eventually I would write a lot I wrote a lot with Tina, as I said, and then eventually with Emily Spivey, Paula Pell. So like the women sort of all wrote together for the most part.
And then something like a Debbie Downer, how does it come about?
Wait, say that again? Sorry.
Like a character like Debbie Downer, how does it come about? Like the genesis of it?
Well, so most of the, I mean, you know this, but I'll just say for the potential listeners, just that most of those characters come from the actors who team up with a writer or another actor to write like those big character scenes. So Debbie Downer came from, I don't know if you know this, but I was on a vacation in Costa Rica, and it was like these communal dining table things. So while we were there, we were just making chit chat, and someone asked where I was from, and I said New York, and then they were like, "Oh, were you there for 9/11?" And like everything sort of screeched to a halt. And it wasn't right after; it was like 3 years after 9/11. So so then everything kind of screeched, and then had to like get back on track, and then that moment just sort of stuck with me. I don't know what it was, but then about a week later, the idea of Debbie Downer popped into my head. And then I brought the idea to Paula Pell, and we wrote it together. And at first we had it set in an office, but it kind of wasn't really working. And then we're like, wait, we have to put her somewhere really fun. So then we did that Disney World one. We all started laughing.
Wow. And so, I mean, the name Debbie Downer came to you, and it was the genesis was that, that Costa Rican vacation, and that one sentence that woman said when you said New York, how she just kind of brought it down immediately. That was enough, those two things, to be the little spark that ignited. Because, I mean, out of all the things I hear, in the zeitgeist, Debbie Downer is up there in terms of people using it.
Yeah, it kind of took off in this way we did not expect. I mean, like, you don't know when you're putting a scene up if it's even going to ever be done again, or will it even get cut, dressed, or whatever. So, I had no idea that it would sort of hit this nerve. But even now, you always hear it, whatever, on the news or the Real Housewives. Like, I mean, I just hear the term being thrown around a lot. It's like a whole thing now.
And that cast, I mean, that 99, 2000 cast that, that you were part of in that year we were there, I mean, that I was there, but, I mean, the talent level was probably as good as it's ever been with, you and Will Ferrell and Anna Gasteyer and Jimmy and Horatio and Molly Shannon, I mean, and Katan and Parnell, I mean, and Tracy Morgan. It's just like everybody was so good. I mean, were you able to look around and go, wow, everybody is really funny and good at what they do?
Yeah, I mean, that was true. Like the whole time I was there, because it's sort of, as you know, like a revolving door. So some people are going to leave and new people are going to come in while you're there. So it was always, like that was my first cast. And then, when I left, it was Andy Samberg and Phil Hader and Kristen Wiig. And so, you're always looking around, like everyone was so funny and everyone's their own sort of voice. And, it was definitely lots of laughs.
And you were there for like 6 years, is that right?
7, yeah.
7 years, wow. And then at some point it was time you felt like to move on, I guess.
What the hell is happening? Sorry, there's a lot of jumping going on here.
That's right.
I mean, well, sort of. This might be the off-the-record portion of this.
Well, it's up to you. I mean,
it's not even like I care. It's just like I don't like to what the fuck is going on up there? Sorry. I don't like, it's not like I care in terms of any sort of embarrassment or it's just like I kind of don't like reviving this story because then it is revived and is given air, sort of thing. But no, the real thing is that I was supposed to go off and do 30 Rock, and then that didn't happen. And then the truth is, this is the off the record part. The truth is that like we called up to see if I could go back on SNL. Like, was that an option? And they said no. So that was like not that great. But yeah, that's kind of like how I left. I probably would have left the following year anyway. But I wasn't like that year. It was me, Parnell, and Horatio. We're kind of like not really allowed to extend. Whereas, after that, it was just always like the actor's choice. Like, oh yeah, you want to stay for 9 years? Sure. But that didn't really happen. So.
But I mean, it speaks to your resiliency, though. I mean, I know you say the thing about how like you always do that. You always get it the second time around.
Right.
But there's this thing I heard once that Vince Lombardi coached by 4 rules: hard work, second effort, loyalty, and love. So I think it speaks to your second effort that, second city you tried, didn't get it, second time you got it. SNL you auditioned, first time you didn't get it, second time you got it.
Right.
But it's a level of perseverance along with resilience that I think, the aplomb that you go from one thing to another, whether it happens or not, because, you weren't going to just stop doing what you did because you had 7 years at SNL and
Right.
You somehow, mustered whatever it took to get up and keep going and, keep trying. What ended up happening next after that? Because that must have been a very challenging time.
Well, it was challenging. So I did 30 Rock. I did the smaller parts, like a different part every week, which was really fun. And I actually, it was more in my wheelhouse probably than the initial 30 Rock part. But then, so after that, that's when everything sort of like screeched to a halt. And that's when I was like, oh my God, sorry. Can you hear that thumping up there?
No.
I guess not. Okay. That's when everything kind of like really slowed down after I left SNL and 30 Rock. Then I wasn't really getting offered any parts, and I was sort of like, oh my gosh, should I quit this? Because maybe I'd be happier doing something else now. Like I didn't think I'd be in that spot, but I definitely was for like 3 or 4 years after I was off SNL. And then that's when, like, I actually wrote the book, which came about of, like, me having all this time on my hands. So I was like, oh, I'll try this. So, that's when I wrote a book.
And what was 3 or 4 years? I mean, you say it in a sentence, but that's a chunk of time for someone to be like, what's my next plan?
Yeah, so, I was getting, like, little gigs here and there. So, like, but they were pretty few and far between, and I didn't expect it, like, because I think you have this vision that SNL is like, after SNL, like, next thing I'll be starring in my own movie, but like, realizing like I wasn't going to have that kind of career off of SNL was kind of, I don't want to say surprising, not like, oh, I'm so awesome, I need to get this, but I guess it was just sort of like that was the track that I thought most people had. Then I guess I had like the big lesson because just wasn't, my plan went awry, but then I ended up writing this book and then ended up having a surprise pregnancy and child. So then that took me through a whole other part of life that I sort of thought was going to pass me by. So then that became like the main, my main gig was being a mom. So then I didn't care as much about all the showbiz stuff, to tell you the truth. I sort of felt like I got to a point where I was like, hey, I've done that. Like I checked that giant thing off. And now like, oh my gosh, I have a kid. This is so cool. So then I was kind of psyched that I was home a lot when he was really little. And then everything kind of, I'm fast forwarding a lot here, but then everything kind of picked up again mysteriously. And now, Ali, I have it all. No, So, but now I have like a good balance. Like I work enough so that I'm still having fun and still getting to do fun parts and writing stuff, and like I feel like I'm in the whole showbiz thing. And then also I have enough time so that I can be the mom. I mean, this is all pre-corona. This takes me back to my grim present day when I'm like, I have all the time in the world now. You want to be a mom? Great. Try to school your child. But yeah.
When you were writing the book, what was the writing process? Was it something, because obviously throughout your life you had to be good at homework type stuff to go to the schools you went to. Was it something you were doing every day or hours a day?
So this is kind of cool. So at first I started writing because, like I said, I'd wake up and there was nothing on my day, nothing on my schedule. So then I was like, okay, why don't I just try to write? Like the kind of thing you might tell at the Moth or something, And so I sort of did it like as a little creative exercise for myself. Occasionally I would tell them at those storytelling kind of things, just to sort of put them up in front of someone. But then I had this stack of stories, real stories, whatever, memoir type stories. And then I brought them to, because I, had my regular agent, they had a lit agent there, and I brought them in, and she liked them. She said, okay, where is this going to go? Like, what's the whole overarching thing? And I didn't really know. And then they kind of just sat there for a year. And then when, after a year, I had the surprise pregnancy happen, and then I was like, oh, wait, like, actually, this could be where the whole story goes, because it's the unexpected twist kind of thing. So then that's when I got the book deal. And then, so the writing process was, I don't know, I would just go like to this little coffee shop and, just try to write. I mean, maybe I had like a little list of funny stories that had happened, and I'd try to write them. And some days it would go really well, like everything's flowing, and other days, like, just nothing's working. Like that book, Bird by Bird, which I love so much. How, like, you might have a day that's just not happening. You might get, like, one line out of a whole day. I say day, but really I couldn't really last much more than 3 or 4 hours. But yeah, so, like, some days, like, I would just write the story as I would tell it to a friend. Like, I would just imagine it was just me telling a friend a funny story, and just type out that. And then other days was much more, pulling teeth. And yeah, and then, I read the other book that I love, the two books are Bird by Bird and the Stephen King book on writing, which is, have you ever read that?
I just bought it on Audible.
Okay. Because it's half memoir. It's not really like a ton of writing advice, but the advice he said, it really sticks with me. And the biggest thing he says that always I find encouraging is he said, like, the story's already there. It's like a fossil, and your job is to dust it off and break as few bones as possible. So that was sort of encouraging to me always, to be like, the story's there. I'm just finding it instead of I got to create this thing, And then the other thing he said was, just to look for themes throughout your writing, but don't. I mean, I might be paraphrasing this wrong, but it was like, don't try to force these connections, but like, as you're writing, like, the themes will appear, like connections will appear, almost like a herald or something. So then, you might find that really helps me in writing my book, because it sort of, these themes did kind of appear and sort of help it take shape. But I don't know, I tried to write another one. I tried to sit down to just like entertain the idea of writing another one, and just like nothing came out. Like, the well was dry or something. I don't know. I think it's because I had that like actual kind of freaky story that happened to me that fueled that book. But now I don't really have like the built-in arc of surprise. So that kind of fell by the wayside.
And then you were saying that, like, all of a sudden things started picking up again, and you started writing the book, and then that, amazing miracle happened with Eli, and then that tied it all together. But then what kind of, like, in your mind created
I don't
this
know.
kind of resurgence?
Well, I don't know if it's because, like, maybe because, like, I aged into better roles, or I don't really know. But see, after SNL, like, I was getting the worst. I mean, yeah, granted, like, you should try to write something for yourself, which I did that too. But, like, no one was buying me wares when I wrote my own, like, I don't remember. I think I had a cheesy idea or whatever. But no, I was getting these parts that were just so awful. Like, every part I got sent was just like, like, the really ugly person. And, like, every time, like, became a joke with my agent, because, like, it was just like, woman 60 obese walks into the room, like, when I was 40, like, just, I was seen in this pigeonhole, and there was just no getting out of it. I was just like, this is not fun on an acting level. Well, like, believe me, I've played those kind of parts. Like, it's not like I'll never do that, but just to have it, like, relentlessly, like, it was just not fun on a life level or an acting level. And then I was just, so I was, like, not interested in any of that stuff anymore. Like, I've played that part, but I don't want to only do that. So, but then I don't know what it was, but just parts started coming my way that were, regular people, or, just more varied and more, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like, normal people. But I think before that, when I was younger, I was like, I wasn't going to be, like, I always thought I'd be like, oh, you could be the wacky neighbor or the, like, the friend of the romantic lead, but I wouldn't even get that stuff. So now I just get offered more varied and appealing parts, I would say. And then I've also been writing too, like, well, I have a few little writing things in the pipeline. I don't know what's going to happen with all this showbiz now, but we'll see.
Whenever I talk to someone, I mean, I've never looked up anybody I talk to before I talk to them, because they're my friends in my phone. And then I just, last night I looked up your Wikipedia and then went on YouTube, and there's just, like, so much work you've done. That's, like, a work that I'm not even aware of, that was just, like, movies and parts and shows and such. And it's, like, the King of Queens thing, which I knew you had done and I'd seen, on TV, but all these little roles that, make up this pretty amazing body of work. Just a statement.
Yeah.
There's not a question there, really.
No, everything's kind of, yeah. I mean, before Corona hit. God,
yes, before
the
BC world.
Nicely. Yeah, jeez.
Now we're in the AC world.
Oh my God.
So in the AC world, hopefully once the smoke settles, I mean, I really, like, right now, I just feel like I was living in a fool's paradise, and the things I was worried about or thinking about just seem so meaningless now. Although I still remind myself daily I'm one of the lucky ones, because I can breathe.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm not having to deal with a sick family member or funeral arrangements, and I just have to keep using, like, this just mental martial arts to stay positive. Because, at the end of the day, what I do is I oversee 4 bricks and mortar spaces that are owned by landlords, and they ain't playing for some reason.
Really?
Someone hasn't given them the memo of we're all in this together. And they want full rent. And it's just like,
my God.
And it's just amazing to me that it's like, you want full rent, but we haven't been open. Where are we supposed to get it from?
Right. Wow.
And so I don't really know. And UCB's already left New York City, and the other theaters are, on the brink. And I get it. I'm like, I don't know what the next chapter of my life is going to be. So.
Yeah.
But that's how something like this was born out of it. I think I have to remind myself with the silver linings, that if this hadn't happened, I would have kept putting off calling people like you to talk, in some kind of whatever this is going to be, format. Because I just wouldn't have wanted to bother people, or I would have tried to make it too perfect and would have had to be, like, scheduling to, like, well, can I come to you or Simple Studio? What for you in this once hopefully the smoke settles and we get through this, what is like an ideal world for you, in terms of, both career and life? Is it being on a sitcom in New York City? Is it movies 2 or 3 times a year? What would your dream be? I mean, if you could wave that magic wand for yourself.
Well, Anna Gaster and I just wrote this screenplay that we're waiting to hear on. I mean, whatever. We'll see. By the time this is heard, we'll know. But I really love this thing we wrote, and that's what we're kind of waiting to see, like, if we can actually shoot this. But that was really fun writing with her. Like, I mean, I kind of hate writing because it's so hard, I find, but it was fun writing with her. So maybe more of that kind of thing, like thinking up show ideas and movie ideas. I think most of my friends have moved a little bit away from acting and more into the producing, creating kind of thing. So that kind of appeals to me. I sort of, I'm a little more, Amy and Tina, they're like, go. They're like producers, literally producers. And that's not really an interest of mine because I feel like my sort of creative energy comes more in waves, and I've kind of learned not to try to force it because with me, it just doesn't happen unless I'm really feeling it. So, I'd like to do more creating of shows probably than the acting of it all. And I don't know, geez, I just want things to go back to normal. It seems like at this point I'll do whatever, but I just want to go to a bar with my friends right now instead of drinking alone at a cocktail hour.
And when you and Anna were working on this together, were you working in person, in the same room, or did you do it?
Yeah, we were, and then we would do some FaceTime, and then this bled over into Corona time, so then we would do FaceTime in our really separate locations. But at first we started out some in person. Yeah, and then we used this program called Writer Duet, because Final Draft you can't actually it's pretty hard to collaborate on Final Draft, but Writer Duet is this, I don't know, some friend of hers told her about it, and you can one person can go off and work on it, and then the other person can check it out. So anyways, that's what we did.
Very cool. And you and Anna, you guys met at SNL.
Yeah.
And you want to stay in New York City.
Say that again?
You want to stay in New York City. I mean, you like New York City.
I do. I mean, New York as I know it. I don't know what the heck it's going to be, but my intention is to go back there. Yes. And my kid really wants to go back there. So we've been going on these nature walks and stuff, and he's declared to me that he doesn't like nature. So that's very different from young Rachel Dratch, who's very into nature and still is. But so he just wants to go back to the city. He's like, I'm a city kid. That's what he's declaring. So, I want to go back too. I don't know what the heck is going to be up there, but yeah. How is it there?
And it's kind of a dystopian world, It's like there was a blast somewhere. We just don't know where the blast was, but the blast radius is expansive, So the streets got way more people who are out of sorts because they don't want to go to the shelters, and the places they would have gone to hang out, like a Starbucks or a bookstore or wherever, is not available to them. Mm-hmm. And so, as I use the word, it's more precarious out there. So that's the code word I use with my daughters, when we're walking into a situation where I'm like, precarious, and they know that means get close to me or get on the right side, get between me, get on the side of me, between me and this other person who's there, but for the grace of God go I. Because what's happened basically is the person who might have gotten leftovers from someone's fancy dinner is not getting those leftovers. The person who might have gotten $2 or $3 from a bartender who had a good night is not getting that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, there's a lot of people who are out of work, and including yours truly, and it's just there's a lot of hospitals that are overrun with people, but it's strange. There's a strangeness to it, and some days are better than others, and today was like a low day for me because I go through my own ups and downs.
Yeah.
But, where it's like, what am I doing? What have I gotten myself into? Why did I choose this? But then I just got to remember that voice in my head is not me. It's just others, and I just got to Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can now. Okay.
So, today was one of those days because we have the homeschooling thing too, and I've got to get out of the house, while they do that, and then come back later. But and I don't know what New York is going to look like. I don't know. There's already for rent signs everywhere, and if landlords don't make deals, there'll just be more for rent signs, and no one's going to come back. Is Danny still in New York, or is he in L.A.?
Oh, he's in L.A.
He's in L.A. Now, would you ever do anything with Danny on a project?
We have this one idea that we see, but the only thing is it's a movie pitch, and it's just weird because right now you couldn't film this. So I'm just at first it's oh yeah, they're hearing pitches, but now it's well, they're hearing them, but you couldn't make who knows when this is coming back. So that's what's kind of strange about not knowing the future of production or anything.
Right. But if you had the choice between being a regular on your own show, sitcom, that was filming 9 months a year, or making 2 movies to 3 movies a year, all things being equal, which would you prefer?
Oh, geez. I don't know. That's a toughie. I mean, I feel like I've gotten a little bit, for lack of a better word, lazy as I've gotten older. So, but maybe that's, not a good, I guess, I mean, I don't have the hunger so much to be I've got to be this and that, I've got to have my own show, I don't really have that. So, I just like to work within, my regular home life too. So I'm not really, well, whatever. At this point, I'd do anything. but if I had my druthers, I'm not really into the 5:30 a.m. pickup to be there till 10 and not see your kid all day. I'm not really,
right.
I mean, once in a while, but I wouldn't want that on a regular basis. So.
And Eli seems like he's a funny little human.
Oh wait, sorry, you cut out again.
I said Eli seems like he's a funny little human. Am I correct in that?
He is a funny little human. He says he wants to be an actor too, which did not come from me, but he's trying to do comedy. And right now they have to do a passion project for school, and he's gonna write sketches, I guess.
That's great.
So that's his own choice, but he definitely seems to have the bug, as they say. Not that bug, but the bug.
It's a good bug. And do you guys do bits and characters together?
Sometimes. I mean, not in any formal way, but just in life we do. Yeah.
Right.
What about your girls? What about your ladies?
My youngest one, Olivia, is naturally funny, and Ella is funny but tries to be funny. But
okay,
Olivia is she's naturally funny. And I'm she'll say surprising things. She doesn't care. She'll speak the truth, Sometimes she'll get down. My sister is smarter than me. She's got a higher IQ than me. And I'll have to say, Olivia.
Say that again?
Olivia will say, my sister, Ella, is smarter than me. She's got a higher IQ than me.
Oh, my God.
And I'll say, Olivia, you have one of the highest comedic IQs I know.
Whoa.
So don't worry about that. I've been with funny people. I know funny people, and you were funny. So, you're a truth teller. So just find, because I remember when I was younger, IQ was a big thing, and then my dad gave me some Reader's Digest article about 6 different types of IQ, where there are athletic IQs, comedic IQs. So it's just not one IQ. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so.
So I was basically saying the different types of IQs. That IQ is not just your smarts, but someone may have a high IQ for carpentry, or painting or sheetrock. It's not. So I try to impart on her that you have a different kind of high IQ, and it doesn't even matter. Just be a good person, But it's, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, because I'm only hearing one word out of.
Oh, Can you
I'm
hear me
not
now?
really hearing. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It just cuts out. Okay.
Can you hear me? I'll keep talking for a second.
I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of cutting in and out a little.
Could be the connection where you are, but it's funny because I think Danny, when he went out to L.A., either you or someone, you connected me with him when you were like, hey, would you meet with Danny? Or somebody did, and we met and we started looking at his like sitcom packet stuff.
Oh yeah.
And now he's got his own like great career, with all the stuff he's done.
Not really. I mean,
really?
Don't put that on. Don't put that on. No, he just has had a really hard time finding work. Like he did, and then he didn't, and then he did, and then so he's had like definitely big chunks with no work.
I see. Well, maybe maybe I'll try to think of a project where Danny can write and you can be in it. Would that be all right if I, pitch something to you one day?
Sure. The only thing is, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't really love working with my brother, so
okay,
I don't want to.
Fair enough. He's cut out of the project. He's cut out of the project.
That's definitely not broadcast anyway.
Oh no.
No, it's
but
just.
you love your brother.
It has challenges. I do love my brother, but that wouldn't be my first choice.
And he would laugh. Right. So I'll come up with something for you. Maybe I'll try to think of something.
Yeah, I mean, as whatever you wish, but sorry, I got a little awkward there.
That's all right.
We are working on something together, but like in like if I'm gonna blue sky it, that's not really where I wanna.
Right. No, I mean, I think of friends like you, and I'm like, and everybody knows how talented you are now. Not that they haven't always. But I'm always like, if I could just think something for these friends who are nice and talented, that way maybe I could be of service.
Yeah,
because, the ideas they came to me, Fast and Furious for a while. So, but even something like this, it was just like it just was born out of my own kind of like, we toured together, we did 2 ski tours together, numerous IO New Year's Eves, But I mean, even just talking to someone for a chunk of time where you just get to be like a fan and a friend was not something I'd had the opportunity to do. And really this whole thing was like, look, I'm a fan and a friend. They're in my phone or I can get to them. And if they're willing to talk to me at a time that works for them, in an app that, the quality is basically a phone call quality, but, it's still, if you were going to give advice to a young you or a young female getting into the business now, is there any advice you could give, to them?
Yeah, I mean, well, I always kind of give the same advice, but it's just kind of what worked for me. But the advice I always give is to take classes because that kind of hooks you into a whole network of people that then you can sort of rise up the ranks with. And find out like who you work well with, and then the other advice I would say is to try to start writing because even if it's not really a goal of yours, it will help you. They're always looking for, a good story, and it's better than waiting for the phone to ring. And then the other thing I would say is to get up in front of an audience, which nowadays is hard, but I guess. Whatever, Instagram, whatever, like you can, I mean, it's like a whole different world than when we were starting out, when you would have to be on stage to be seen, and like now, people are, you can be online and have a whole audience that way, so I guess, hopefully this will be over soon, but I mean, that's how you can, but actually, like, I mean, all kidding aside, like the live audience, there's kind of nothing like that for getting experience and seeing what works. Because I remember, like, when you first start out, people would, like, sit around and talk about a sketch, like, talk, and then, like, until it's up, you don't really know anything about it, So, yeah, I guess that's my advice.
I think that's great. I think that's good and true advice. And I mean, and one time I trained for a while when Ella was very young in a boxing gym. And I remember just every day hearing the same things over and over again. The trainers would tell other people who were boxing, and I'm like, you're just saying the same thing over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
but then it just hit me like they have to say the same things over and over again because they're the truths of boxing, and you have to have it in your head when they're not there to tell you.
Right,
so,
right.
in the same way, like I had acting teachers who had, the same refrain. They would say it because what they're trying to do is be that good voice in your head when you're not there for yourself, and you're like, and then something in you, it becomes like your system, where you get to just have this thing there when you need it, right?
Right.
So like I said, for me, one of the refrains now is just, when my mind goes to a place, it's just like, you're one of the lucky ones, Ali. You're still one of the lucky ones.
Right.
And you just have to like,
yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I love New York City. I mean, I really love the city, and I just don't know like what it's going to be like and what it's going to look like, because New York City, especially for rental property, is like it only demands that value because of the population and tourism.
Right.
So the population's not there, the tourism is not there. Why are you charging so much rent? Because now we don't have access to people. And whenever I go into a store, I always like to talk. I like people, and I like talking to people. And I went to a Staples yesterday because I had to get a pair of headphones. And I just asked the guy, how's the business been? Has it dropped off at all? And he was a manager. And he said, we used to do 20,000 a day. Now we're doing 5,000.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. At first, I couldn't believe he was giving me numbers. I was just trying to, I was just trying to get like, 80%, 75%, we're doing 50%. But he actually told me what they make in a day at a Staples. Right. And I was like, that's a 75% drop.
Wow. Wow.
And I've had to call my other friends who also are tenants. At the end of the day, I'm a tenant. And I remember seeing this Richard Harris movie called The Field. I don't know if you've ever seen it. But it's a great like movie night movie. But basically he rents this field from this Irish widow. And one day the Irish widow wants to sell the field to this American businessman, Tom Berenger, to build a hotel. And Richard Harris says to her, you can't sell that field. That's my field. And she screams at him, it was never your field. And that's the truth of being a tenant. You just forget. You get lulled into thinking it's your field. And it's like, it's not your field.
Right.
And ultimately, it's not even the landlord's field, because if they don't pay their taxes, they'll take it away from them. It's nobody's field.
Right.
It's just this false sense of security we all have of like, it's mine. But it's like, see what happens if you don't pay your rent. See what happens if you don't pay your taxes. It's not yours.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what next for ye old Ali.
Yeah.
And how can I help? And, but I also remember you always took like really cool vacations. Did you have something lined up that you were going to take in the BC world before this happened? You took a bicycle trip?
I didn't have like a big thing on the docket or anything that got canceled. No.
But that was always part of something you like to take trips. Like you always,
Well, but since Eli came along, I haven't done like as extravagant traveling because it's just easier. Like I took him to France last year. That was my big trip because I lived with this French family during college, and I took him to go meet their grandkid. So they're about the same age. So that was really cool. I'm glad we got that in before all this. But it was really fun. And but no, nothing else. Nothing was on the horizon because I usually do a lot of local travel now. So
in one of our text exchanges, I remember you said, you something about I don't like to talk about myself too much unless it's at a dinner party.
Well, that was just a joke.
I know, but
I meant monopolizing. I was just joking that I was going to monopolize a dinner party. No, I always hate like this. I just feel like telling like my past. Like I feel like you're supposed to be funny because you're a comedian, but I answer very earnestly. So then I just feel like I'm like, and then the next chapter of my bio, I found myself in Chicago. That's why it's not really like my jam, but because it's Eli, of course I said yes. So.
But the thing I was
anything
wondering,
for you, kid. Yeah, what?
Thank you, Ray, and likewise, honestly, likewise, anything for you. But had you ever done like a show like where you have a dinner party where you invite friends to have dinner in some type of I don't want to say reality. I'm asking, well, that's something I just was like made up in my mind where I was like, when you said that, I was like, oh, I think I remember Rachel had some show on one of these networks where she.
I was there was this Bravo show. So I'd be on it, like have a dinner party for the chef would serve us.
Right.
So I did that. It was just kind of like weird, but it's a strange show. But I like why am I on this? But I just wanted like I thought it'd be really fun to have this like exquisite dinner party with friends. So that I said I would do it. But yeah.
Because when you texted me that, I was like, is that a show? Did she do that? Because that would be a phenomenal vehicle for her.
Oh my gosh.
What types of shows are you watching now? What?
Well, you know what I don't really like being like myself on camera. It's just not like it just makes me nervous. I don't like being like I'm gonna just be witty as me because it's not really my jam. But no, you know what I just watched? But I have to get up in a little bit because I have to.
Yes,
get the kids
yeah,
back
absolutely.
on. I just watched Unorthodox, which I loved. Have you watched that?
Okay. No, but my
Have you
wife and
watched
daughter
it?
were watching it. I haven't. I'm going to check it out though.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I watched.
It really sticks with you. Yeah, what are you watching?
I watched Devs with Offerman.
Wait, what's it called?
It's called Devs, DEVS. I enjoyed that. It was one season.
You're cutting out again.
Uh-oh. All right. Well,
Debs?
Little N,
What?
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Little N, Rachel, Ray of Sonic, that you took the time to chat with me today during this pandemic.
Oh, sure.
And I don't take it lightly that anybody returns my phone call. I am very grateful.
Anything for you, kid.
I hope to see you, kid, in the real world. You know, I hope you get a chance, and hopefully you get a chance to meet Olivia, and Ella can meet Eli someday when you get back to New York City in a park somewhere, socially distanced.
I hope that this gets worked out with those landlords and everything. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things that time will tell, and if it doesn't, then okay, that it was what it was, and then we'll figure out what the next thing is going to be.
Right.
I'm not the only one going through this, so I can't get all make it all about me. I'm just one person.
Wait, say that again?
I said, I'm just one person, so it's not just happening to me. It's happening to everybody around New York and the world. So I'm not alone in this. I just have to figure out how to navigate my way out of it.
Yeah.
But I thank you for your time, thank Eli for sharing his mom with me for, this chunk of time.
I'm sure he's glad because he got to play video games, so.
All right.
That's it's a whole other story.
Thank you.
All right, good to chat with you.
You too. Bye-bye, Ray.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, bye.
Okay, that was Rachel Dratch. What a fun conversation. I learned so many things about, her path. And it's funny because we both were in Chicago or got there about the same time. I got there November 1st, 1990, and she got there in 89. But I remember from the get-go seeing her at Improv Olympic on stage and, just thinking she was talented. Never, I don't know why I didn't really think about this back then. It just didn't cross my mind whether someone was male or female. They were just funny or, that's it. If they were funny, they were funny. And she was a phenomenal improviser and is a phenomenal improviser and funny and a good person and has done so much work. And, I feel lucky that I got a chance to talk to her for a little bit and to be able to call her friend. So that was fun on a day that I was feeling kind of low in a very gray, cold New York May day. So if you enjoyed it, please spread the word. Check out thepit-nyc.com for classes both online and in the real world. Hopefully somewhere we will have space again and spaces will be open and people will be able to come and see live theater, which is what we do at the end of the day. I've been enjoying Fresca, Goya lentils, but I enjoyed Devs and the book Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott is a great book for writers who are having a writer's block. And I will check out this writer duet because it seems cool. But you've been listening to Is This a Bad Time to Talk? AKA I'm Here to Listen. And that's the hardest part, is to listen and not interrupt, because you get excited with spontaneous conversation. You want to jump in and chime in. But I think one of the greatest gifts you can give to someone is listening, is to hear them out wait till they're finished talking, take a breath, and then respond. Even though it may seem awkward because it may seem like there's awkward silences there, they seem longer to us than they actually are. And I think, if you ease into that rhythm of listening and reacting when you're talking to someone, it'll benefit both you and them because they'll know you are truly listening. And then you can take a note about something you want to ask a question about or earmark it for later. And if you don't get to it, you don't get to it. We're not going to get every Easter egg in our Easter basket. Everybody's on an Easter egg hunt, and you're not going to make sure you get every single egg. You'll get some, maybe one, maybe a few, and then, with that, you have to be grateful for the eggs in your basket, not the ones you didn't get. So you may not ask every question, you may not say everything you want to say, you may not do everything you want to do, but, it's just panning for gold, and that's it. So thank you, Rachel Dratch, Ray Littleton, for your time. I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but I count myself very lucky to call you a friend. All right. So if you're still listening, good night, sweet dreams, or good morning, or good afternoon. But until we meet again, so long and happy trails.
Thanks for listening to Global Comedy Studios. Is this a bad time to talk? Stay tuned for more.